Aastha and everyone else who's joining us, a very, very good afternoon. And thank you so much for taking the time out, Aastha, from, I can imagine, what must have been a super busy schedule for you. I was just told by my office that you've literally just come back into office from a meeting just a short while back. So sorry to pull you in. And to everybody else जो हमें join कर रहे हैं from different parts of the country, thank you very much for constantly supporting WEP. I think this is a very, very important conversation that we are having on empowering India and how offline retail can unlock youth and women entrepreneurship. But आगे बढ़ने से पहले I think एक round of introduction जरूरी है. मेरा नाम यशोधरा बाजोरिया है और मैं CAxpert की co-founder हूँ. We provide outsourced accounting solutions to small business owners, and this conversation is particularly very, very exciting to me and Aastha. I may just delve a little bit into that aspect. We've also just recently launched a collective at WEP, which is Women Entrepreneurship Platform, that is working on solving for the market access problems that a lot of women entrepreneurs are facing. They're building great products, but they're all over the country. And for them to have the right access to solutions to showcase their products is very important. And in that light, I think the new shop is a very, very relevant story. So I'd like to first begin by welcoming you. Thank you so much for your time. For all those who don't already know you, because I think there are very few people who don't, Aastha Almast is the co-founder of New Shop, India's largest 24/7 convenience retail chain. She has disrupted the retail space by building a profitable, tech-driven shopping experience from ground up. In 2019, and I think this is very interesting, alongside Charak Almast and Manidev Wali, Aastha opened her first New Shop store at the Anand Vihar railway station. I would love to know why you chose that. And with the goal of providing a modern 24/7 shopping experience that meets the daily needs of urban consumers. With the whole availability being, of goods and services, not goods, but like lots of products being available 24/7 and a broad selection of it. The New Shop is now tailored to the fast-paced lifestyle of today's consumers, offering convenience and accessibility at every turn. Aastha is not only committed to bringing innovation, but it's also creating impact. New Shop's franchise-friendly model is designed to empower young and first-time entrepreneurs, including women. And Aastha, do touch upon what is it that you're doing specifically for franchise owners, jo mahilaएं hain. I think that would be interesting for everybody who's joined in. The company is on a mission to empower 10,000 entrepreneurs over the next 5 years, with women forming a sizable portion of this. Before launching New Shop, Aastha built a career spanning 15 years across diverse industries like fashion, retail, finance, and technology. And fashion retail is one word, sorry. And she has worked with Bank of America and successfully led multiple tech startups. She's also been featured in Business World's Disrupt 40 Under 40 twice. Wow. And she continues to inspire innovation in her business. Wonderful. What a bio. Aastha, welcome, as I said, and over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, how it all started, where is it now, and I'll take it up from there.
Thank you so much, Yashodhara, for having me here, and I'm very excited. I saw such a huge turnout of questions,
yes.
and women joining from all over the country. It's just so cool and inspiring. And today morning, I woke up to this amazing news in the paper where we see that the rural employment in women has risen to 41.5%.
Yes.
It was so fascinating, made my day, and today we are here talking about what more we can do to facilitate and empower women. And
Right.
exciting day. So you've already spoken so much about me. I'm
still
feeling a little, feeling a little too well spoken about. Thanks for your kind words and the nice introduction. So I'm Aastha Almast, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of New Shop, which is, like you mentioned, now India's largest convenience retail chain, which is operating 24 hours open stores in 4 kind of locations, primarily mass transit hubs like railway stations, airports, gas stations, highways, dense urban localities in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, in educational institutions and corporate parks. Our vision is to empower entrepreneurship. I'm a third-time entrepreneur, and I've been through these many roller coaster rides of founding a passion in solving a problem, and then realizing it's not that easy to solve a problem, and having to try multiple ways of arriving at your destination. So I understand how painful entrepreneurship can be, yet how passionate being an entrepreneur is all about. And here to share my experience. And that is why empowering entrepreneurship through New Shop was very core and dear to me and my co-founders. We've seen that journey, and we understand how difficult it is to be a business owner. So New Shop is all about handholding young entrepreneurs, both men and women, but mostly like people who are young first-time business owners and aspiring to build something of their own, which is in times with the modern consumer needs, as well as something that gives them a new meaning in life and something that they can keep building on and growing. So that's how New Shop was born in 2019. A little bit about my background. I'm actually a fourth generation working woman in my family.
Oh,
So
nice.
yes, and I've been very fortunate to be raised by very forward thinking women. My grandmom was one of the first women doctors in pre-independence era. In fact, one of the first women gynecologists of India. My great grandmom was a school teacher. My mother was a very big exporter of garments, and my buas are doctors. So I just lot of inspiring women around me. And there's one promise I made to my grandmom. There's a lot of problems and challenges in my life were already taken care of her because she fought all my battles.
Right,
She's one
absolutely.
of the first women stepping out of a house, fighting with her parents to educate her equally, or get her the same access that her brothers would get to, like my mother, to now. And there's one thing that I really live by is, when you're born, leave the world more equal than the one you were born into. So
Absolutely.
that's my personal motto that I live by, and everything that I do reflects this part of me that my grandmother taught me, and hopefully I can continue doing this for the rest of my life.
No, I think that's such a powerful message, Astha, because it's so important to talk about where you're coming from. And I think that the fact that you inbuilt this in your structure of TNS, where you say that you want to, through your franchise model, you want to kind of empower more business owners around you, men, women, and alike. I think that's very, very powerful, and I think we will want to talk about that. But let's begin right at the top. Wherever I have done research on TNS, everywhere it says it's a tech-driven retail. There's O2O. I
Yes.
mean, इसे समझाइए हमें. What do you mean by O2O? What do you mean by tech-driven retail? Is it even sort of? I mean, help us decode it for us.
Great. So, typically what's happening is the lines between online and offline retail are actually blurring. These are phenomena that we've already seen in the developed economies, and this is something that's going to happen in India as well. The lines between online and offline are blurring, and the traditional form of retail is actually getting very badly disrupted by the new digital world. Right. So the only way you can, grow the traditional retail is when the traditional retailer breaks that mindset of how things have been done for many, many decades and comes out of it and starts looking at solutions that are efficient, transparent, more productive, and scalable.
Okay.
Right. That's how technology plays a very vital role in enabling all these things to happen. Right. I always believe technology is, it's not like the one and only thing in this world, but it's an ends to a means.
Hmm.
So it's an enabler that, when adopted in every industry, solves a lot of problems and quickly helps you achieve the targets that you've been looking for.
Hmm.
So when we say we're technology driven, so interestingly, we're not structured like a retail company within the company, right? So think of
Okay.
it as Uber, right? Think of us as like Uber for retail, where Uber is like for a customer a taxi service, but at the back end, Uber is essentially empowering drivers to make a more meaningful employment opportunity out of driving cars, and of course upgrade their standard of living, and as well as their financial earnings. So applying that same model to New Shop, what we have done is that we built a technology platform and powerhouse which seamlessly integrates various facets of running retail operations in such a way that, we make the life of an aspiring entrepreneur or a franchise owner so simple that they can run, anybody can become a retailer to a great modern retail store, and with a complete back-end support through our tech and operations.
Give us a use case. Give us an example, Aastha, of somebody who you empowered in some part of the country, which was sort of very, very sort of a great story to tell.
So there are too many great stories, right? So, yeah, so I'll tell you how the platform works, right? And the entire process of you coming to us as an aspiring franchise owner and to where you end. So, as soon as you express interest in becoming a new shop franchise owner, we have a certain parameter and a test to determine how entrepreneurial are you. And that helps us determine how much training time are we going to spend on you. What all you know, what all you don't know, and how do we get you the right set of tools and skill sets that will make you successful over a period of time. That's where the journey starts through our first test. After that, we have entire platform to determine, like in retail, choosing a wrong location can make and break everything.
Absolutely.
Right? So we have data and intelligence to determine what kind of location should you be opening a store. Some factors that I'll give you is a new shop store is about 600 to 800 square feet big. And it becomes profitable as soon as you churn 300 orders per day. Now, our science says that 300 orders per day are facilitated in a geography that has 10,000 people living, right? So wherever there are 10,000 people living, that's like a first parameter for approving that kind of a location, right? And then there's so much science, right? Like how big is your frontal facade? Is there enough parking available? Is the traffic like constantly on the move, which could hurt pedestrians walking into the store? Is it near a school or a college or a temple or another place of religious worship? What are the nearby stores? Are they complementary? Are they not complementary? How far is it from like the mainstream markets, because you need to get employees to run the store as well. And from our experience, the store staff, the closest they live to the store, the more likely are they to be sticking as the employees of the store. So there are these few parameters that now we have
very valid point. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so we built a filter around all of these parameters. Now we built actually very deep tech around it. So as soon as, and then, there are things around Google Map locations, how well, whatever, so there's so many things. So we mapped it into our tech. So, our software now determines whether this is a viable location or not. So first starts with location hunting, right? Which is purely taken care of by us. The second thing where technology plays a role. Now technology is not just software, right? Technology is any kind of new stuff that you build. So we built the world's, I would say, one of the most cheapest modular foldable store, which is very compact, and it can be transported from one place to the other at like less than 15 lakhs of rupees, and the store is built in 15 days. So we're applying for an IP for that, and this entire revolution around this new physical format that we've created is crazy, because on an average it would take 3 to 6 months to construct a store. Now we have a store that can be built in 15 days. So once you logged in a location, a franchise, a typical retailer gets only 45 days to 60 days of rent-free period. And if you only 15 days, so if it is up and running in 20 days, so the franchise owner or retailer enjoys those 20-25 days of rent-free period, and they're able to break even in the 45th day.
Right.
So that's the second thing we've done, which is our amazing store in a box. Once location finalized, store finalized, then comes the third biggest challenge in retail, which is you don't know what licenses you need to apply for. It's a madhouse, and there are these consultants who will sort of fool young entrepreneurs around. We charge you this and we get you the license in like 2 weeks and 3 weeks.
Your suggestion, I know I'm cutting you, but your suggestion would be to kind of not navigate this entire sort of selection process through a consultant. Is that what you would advise if somebody was to do it? If without, this platform is only available for TNS, but outside of this network, how does the woman entrepreneur or any entrepreneur who's willing to enter into this market, how do they go about identifying that space and
A lot
What
depends
your
on
guidance?
what is your product, what are you selling, and who's your end target customer. So, that a lot of those things, what's the price points, a lot of things determine on what location is viable for you. So there are a lot of location that would work for a convenience retail chain like mine, but may not work for a high street fashion store, right?
Right.
So again, it's all about what kind of retail product offering do you have and who are you targeting, which will determine all of this. What we are trying to do is we've at least tried to streamline the process of how tech and training can make our franchise owners successful. So there are a lot of learnings here because there are different kind of needs of every retail format. And
Just some of the factors that you mentioned in terms of the square space, in terms of the frontage, all these are very, very valid points, and thanks for sharing that. But in terms of digital tools, Astha, if one has to equip themselves with digital tools to be effective, what are some of those digital tools that micro entrepreneurs in the retail sector should adopt to enhance their operations? What are
I
some of the skills that they should have, like digital skills that?
number one thing that you need to know is the biggest two nightmares of a retailer is either excess inventory, or stock dumping at the store, which is not selling, or no inventory, which is loss of sale. So every tool that I think a retailer should think about should keep in mind that I should not end up with any of these two problems. So having said that, these two problems can only be solved if you know who your customer is and what they're buying, right? So there are digital tools available. So we actually have built our in-house technology and integrated all of this. But there are things around getting to know the right inventory management software, getting the right point of sale software, getting trackers to understand who your customer is. So, you can do RFID tagging, you can do, video, you can have videos all around the stores, and they can do like image recognition and, try to understand user behavior. There is heat sensing, heat mapping. Then, of course, there's digital payments. But what we have seen out of our experience is that India is still a cash-rich economy, especially when you move out of the tier one cities. So have that flexibility for the consumer that you accept all forms of payment. So you obviously digital payment is super important, but do accept credit cards, do accept debit cards, do accept cash, and use a software of point of sale which accommodates all of these. And I think fifth and the most important, getting some kind of e-commerce, engagement. So there are a lot of these softwares like Shopify and so many that enable a retailer to go online. So it's a world where online and offline are now blurring. You
Right,
have
right.
to be where the consumer is, and you have to be at each and every touch point where the consumer is shopping. So you have to facilitate social media channels for e-commerce, social commerce engagement. You have to have like a website that facilitates e-commerce transactions. You have to be available where your consumer is. Otherwise, again, there's a problem of loss of sale and
No,
loss
I'm
of
glad
opportunity.
you kind of spoke about the whole social commerce bit, because that's just becoming such a relevant sort of segment where your
Yeah.
consumer is actually not only viewing the product but seeing somebody else wear it and then having the possibility to go and shop the look and so on and so forth. So just from a digital standpoint, and I'm going to stick with the larger theme of digital here. How do you build your brand story? Now, for you, it's a lot easier. You're this large company, you've got the resources, but remember, we are talking to people who are just starting out, who may not have the kind of strength that you have, in terms of scope of spend. So for them, if they need to fight off competitors, what would you do, or what would you suggest in order for them to build that very compelling brand story around their brand?
See, this takes us back to why we chose Anand Vihar railway station as a first store,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
So, interestingly, when a woman especially wants to get into retail, there are like these crazy societal barriers, right? Like I remember everyone in my family was like, "You went to IIM Calcutta and you studied here and you worked here, and now you want to sell chips and Coca-Cola in a store." And I'm sure a lot of women listening to us today would have also felt that kind of a thing, because the licenses, things, it's just fears around safety, etc. Could create societal barriers. And then the second is funding availability.
Yeah.
So the reason why we chose Anand Vihar as a first store, first of all, it's obviously all the railway stations are government run. And there was like this new wave of redeveloping and modernizing railway stations that had started in the year 2019. And I found myself in a room full of men representing some legacy retail brands to sort of get an opportunity to open the retail open a retail setup in the railway station. And I was just the only girl there, and also the youngest. And I told them that I'm running this Make in India company, and I want to. I don't have a lot of money. In fact, if you give me the opportunity to open the first store, I'm going to have to go to a public sector bank and ask for a Mudra loan to sort of begin my first store. But I can promise you that I want to be a part of India's growth and development story, and not just one railway station. I want to open new shop stores in all railway stations and be a showcase to show Make in India products and products in a lot of these great art, artisanal work, etc. Because Indian railway stations need to truly demonstrate what is Indian and not international. So give an Indian brand a chance, and that's how Anand Vihar railway station happened for us. And of course, our store was profitable in the first month itself. So again, this is to go back to say that all these uh, things become a lot easier when you're very strategic in your planning. So just this store setup was like the perfect branding opportunity for us. Now you got to be creative and you don't have money, right?
Right.
What we did was we had a tie-up with this company called Lenskart, and we demonstrated a lot of these funky, sunglasses. So, India is like a country which is obsessed for sunglasses, especially when they're affordable. And then what we did was we put a huge TV there with a camera. I have two tech founders and they just made it work. And people could wear those sunglasses, and we had like these filters where people could like swipe and see different versions of themselves doing funny things on the screen. And literally our store became a selfie point in Anand Vihar railway station. And,
Nice.
and I don't just mean travelers, but even like politicians and like bureaucrats or even employees of the railway station who just come to our store just to see what is this cool thing. And all it took was like some 4,000 rupees. And that branding sort of took us a long way, that we ended up getting interest from the railway ministry to open stores across all the railway stations, and of course that's like a first stepping stone. There's been no looking back. So when it comes to branding, right, the online and the offline world works very differently. Now, if you have very limited resources, right, e-commerce can get very tricky because it has very high customer acquisition costs. What that means is how much money I spend to acquire my first one customer, right? And we've all seen companies that have sort of gone all out in e-commerce are now struggling with extremely large expenditure that they have to make on marketing and advertising, and they continue to keep diluting ownership, raising, which is also not easy to do, to get that kind of to fund that kind of customer acquisition cost. Which is why we decided to go offline first, because that hoarding in a extremely dense and highly walked location is enough to get somebody attracted to your location, which is what Anand Vihar did for us.
So,
That railway station gets about 2 to 3 lakh footfall every day, and that those guys just found our store very attractive looking for a location like a railway station, and like this cool thing. And that's how our branding story sort of just took off.
right. So what I'm getting from you is that even though finances may be a constraint, but your creativity has to be let loose, and you have to find. And I think that I think I want to tie this to your first point, Asta, where you mentioned how offline location is then important. Because you could have had this very creative store, you could have had the sunglasses and the partnership, but if it was in a place where the footfalls would not have been significant, then that would not have really translated in the whole space kind of getting the virality that it did, right? So I think it's kind of there are lots of moving parts, but they're also coming together. It's very, very interesting, and the financier in me has kind of picked up on that, where you said that the customer acquisition cost, which is the CAC, is very, very high when you're doing online marketing. And I think a lot of people are waking up to that because they're looking at these metrics more seriously than they would have earlier. They are understanding that marketing is a bit of a black hole. which they need to obviously learn to grapple with. Two things that you said. One was barriers that women face when you were in that room, which was full of men. I know you spoke about that, a soft barrier. Is there anything else you want to talk about that? And the second small point that I have, which you also mentioned in your previous answer, was how the new shop actually is giving access to a lot of handicrafts and products from rural, and you're kind of showcasing that. So how did you build that supply chain? Today, if some of the women who are here, who are listening to you, if they want to reach out to you, or they want to reach out to another large offline retailer, what is it that they need to do to make sure that their email gets read, their product gets checked, and it does not get lost in that large heap of products that I don't know what's the selection process, and but how does somebody deal with that? So just pausing here to hear to me.
There are multiple types of retail formats, right? There could be a big box electronics store, there could be a large grocery chain, there could be a supermarket, a hypermarket, a convenience retail store, a specialty store. Now, what I've seen with most entrepreneurs who are making great products is that they don't realize which is the right retail platform for their products. And what they think is that, if I'm available everywhere, I'm going to attract a customer. And that is where they make the biggest mistake, right? You have to identify which is the exactly right platform through which you can reach your end consumer. And that is the one platform that you should be engaging over and over again to keep building that loyalty and that customer base. That is what's going to keep growing your brand forever. Now, whether you choose that platform to be Amazon or you choose it to be New Shop or DMart, right, it's something that you have to go deep and sort of understand. So if you're looking at launching your product at store, forget your sales manager. As a founder, go sit there, see, interact with the customer, try to understand what is the consumer need that that particular retail format is trying to solve. So that is something that I have seen a lot happening. Their founders are always ambitious and they want to be everywhere. But if you sort of reach out to New Shop to sell a underwear company, underwear product, it's not going to work out, right? It's a convenience store. Likewise, if you maybe take an energy drink or a cool fruit juice that you created and you go to like a large format store like DMart, it's going to take a very long while till your product starts getting any kind of recognition because it's, you're one of the many 200 brands there. Versus if you bring that product to New Shop, 25% of our sales come from beverages. It's very likely that your product, given the right environment, training, sampling, all of that, it is going to get picked up at a New Shop store. So identifying the right channel for launching your product is extremely important, and then continuously engaging in that channel, with new promotional strategies, getting promoters, sampling, getting some ad spaces in that retail store or e-commerce platform is extremely important, and keep learning, keep growing that channel. Once you think that channel is working for you, that is when you move to another channel to sort of launch your product. And there are a lot of learnings there. Is your packaging right? Are you selling it at the right price? Are you selling it along with the right kind of products, right? Are you displaying it rightly? So these are the few things. Like I've seen a lot of these young brands when they've not sort of thought through what their packaging should look like. So like retail में थोड़ा standardization होता है, right? There's a shelf and then there's a strip, and then you display products in a particular fashion, right? The heaviest products go right at the bottom, the lightest like on the top, and then there's color scheming, etc. So for example, in beverage companies, one of the things that I've seen is that they'll make their branding in not a very thoughtful way. So that strip that is very common on shelves of retailers, that hides their brand name or the product name. Versus like a legacy brand, which has put so much thought process into what their packaging should look like. It's just very attractive, right? When a consumer sees it, whether you put it at eye level or not, just the packaging is so attractive that the customer walks into the store and without even reading the brand name from the packaging, they're able to pick up that this is the product that I'm looking for. So, there's a lot of learning that young brands.
I think that this is very, very valuable information, Aastha, and this is all it's all emerging in this conversation. And one of the things WEP aims to do always is to democratize data, right? Like how can your information be available to very, very many people. I'm getting some feedback that there is echo. Aastha, just checking for the benefit of the listener. Is there an echo that you can hear from me?
No.
Okay, so and there's no echo from your end. So requesting whoever is facing an echo, if you could just log in and log out and log in again. So just to stick to that, so this information is so important, and I'm sure somebody in the team is taking notes for this, because we will try, and what we do is that we will try and create a one-pager from everything that you've said, and try and share that with everybody who's here, so that this information is also something that they can refer back to. Again, this is inspiration after listening to you, because you said online has to go offline, right? So some of what you're saying in this has to be put on paper. But just kind of, wanting to take you back on your conversation on the handicrafts bit. So is there a special sort of the supply chain that you have carved out for people who are producing these handicrafts or very sort of make in India kind of products? How do they reach you? Is there a way that you suggest that they reach, the right people? Of course, one is to find that right partner, and how you gave an example of the beverage reaching a DMart and then getting lost in 200 brands. But otherwise भी अगर कोई retailer है जो खाली handicrafts या sustainable products बेच रहा है, and you're seeing a lot of these new themes coming out in the offline retail, like only sort of sustainable products are being sold in that store and so on and so forth. How does one know about this sort of opportunity? How do you reach their purchase manager? How do you decode that? So help us with some learnings.
Great. So I think, as much as a brand needs a retailer also needs a brand, right? Because you're always looking at new ways of, getting your customer excited and making sure that they keep walking into your store every now and then. So some of the things that we do is that we're very regular at all, exhibits. So our top two categories are like food and beverages. So at least every time there's a food or beverages exhibit, or whether it's trade fair or any kind of food fair happening in any part of the world, our team goes there, right? They may not just go there as new shop. They may sort of disguise and go, but we're always on a lookout of cool new brands in our top selling categories. So exhibits is a cool way of sort of reaching, getting your presence felt, and it's not even very expensive. The government also does so many of these exhibits, and there's so many grants extended to make in India products. So these exhibits are an excellent way of getting discovered, right, by a new set of retailers or any kind of people. I think the second thing is, if say it's not the exhibit, and how do you reach out to a retailer yourself? Having a conversation, like going to a store manager and sort of offering that, hey, can I do free sampling? And, I like to see some feedback. All our store managers are sort of trained that if a brand comes like that, just bubble it up to us immediately, right? Because that just shows, how persistent, all of us want, the brands to do well at our stores. But there's a very big difference between brands that do exceptionally well and the brands that don't. Is that how involved is the promoter in ensuring that that brand does well at our stores? So this is one key learning from all the legacy brands, like whether it's the HUL and a PNG or an ITC, yes, or brand, is that no matter how big they get, they are always supporting the retailer and ensuring that the retailer is making money through their brand. So they're constantly, like, we would have at least a week or every weekly or twice a week kind of meetings with all these legacy brands. They're so involved with the retailer. Is this product working? It's not working. Do you think we should change the MRP? Stuff like that. So, if the brand is truly, if the brand truly thinks that this is the right retail space for me, then, they should sort of come out with offers and not just always think of, I don't want to pay placement fee, and I don't want to do this, and I don't want to do that. Identify a channel, like I said, and go very deep with it. So just give them an offer. I want to do free sampling. Just sort of with every order you take, just send my candy, or just send this free away. I want to just get consumer feedback, and keep consistently listening to the consumer of that retailer. If the consumer really wants you, there is no way a retailer will not onboard you.
Okay, so for those who, thanks a lot for that, Aastha, but just addressing another person who's raised, an echo problem. For those of you who cannot hear us clearly. We are being able to have a perfectly normal conversation, and this entire session is getting recorded. So we have taken down your email addresses, and we will be sharing this on our social media, and we'll make sure we can tag all of you. So apologies for that technical glitch, but rest assured this conversation is getting recorded and you will be able to see it in a short while from now. So Aastha, thanks very, very much for that. I think you did touch upon fees. And I think that's one aspect that I want you to also cover. Thanks a lot. Okay, before I move on, I want to just, give you a perspective of who all have joined in. So we have, Parveena Thota. She's joined us from, I think, Andhra Pradesh. And she does this very nice sustainable Ganeshas made from dried flowers. And she's been a very, she was an entrepreneur who kind of came through the award to reward program that WEP does. And from there to now, she kind of has become a voice in her community for other women to become entrepreneurs. We've got people joining in from Thirur, Nagpur, Ajmer, Aizawl, Kogur in AP as well. So a lot of people from different parts of the country, Aastha, and I'm sure once we put the recording out there, there'll be so many people gaining from this. There are two questions I want to ask you. When somebody builds their product, for them, it's like their baby. They think it's the best product, everybody should buy it. How do you become objective about it? How do you tell yourself that, listen, this is not working? I might be in love with it, but the fact of the matter is nobody else is. So how do you de-alienate your love from market forces and tell yourself, and what's that time in your entrepreneurial journey where you tell yourself that, okay, this is it, this is the litmus test. It should pass these five. They should pass a sandbox of these 5 things, and then it's good to go. The second thing I want you to reflect upon, as I was saying, is the fees. When you are negotiating with the retailer, and I know I'm asking you to given your trade secrets, but what is it that women can negotiate with and can talk about this in terms of a better bargaining power, because they're all early stage. They want that even every penny matters. So do tell us about both those things.
So to answer your first question, I'm a third-time entrepreneur, so clearly I failed before. And I think the best answer is, I would say, fail fast. So we all have our product is always our baby, but there are a lot of factors that determine the success of a product, and it may not always be you or your product, right? Like market timing is so important. If you even if you have like the best product, but you time it at the wrong time, you're doomed to fail, even if you were like the best entrepreneur or the best product, which is something that happened with me and my co-founders in our first startup. So in the year 2012, we launched our first startup, which was a smartphone gaming company. Now, we were great founders. We were still the same founders, right? We had great products. In fact, my 2 co-founders are specialists in computer gaming, and they studied in US and came back. So in India, that was like a skill set that nobody really had back then. Yet in 2012, there was no Geo. There were no cheaper, affordable smartphones. The internet adoption was very low. So even with the best product, you can fail because you didn't get the timing right. However, if we would have launched that same company in US in the year 2012, I'm sure we would have been at another good trajectory altogether, right? So failure is just one simple thing. You'd rather fail fast than keep holding on to the product. There'll be another time, right? If you're so passionate about that product, revive that product at a time when the timing is right, rather than just, continuously wasting time, energy, and resources on something that may not be working today, right? That's something that I have learned. The second thing that we learned is your first few products should be very simple products, right? That's a mistake we made in our second startup. It was a tech product, and we overloaded it with features. So, it's always easy for a consumer to grow with your product, and you keep launching new products. I mean, for instance, Facebook took years to launch anything other than the thumbs up. It's not like they didn't have the resources and the technology to launch it sooner. So, what entrepreneurs do is when they launch products, they just launch too many of them with too many features, and none of them have sort of tested the market. So go to the market with 1 or 2 sort of specialized products and their variations and ranges. Prove success there. build a good customer and retailer relationship, and then start scaling. So I think those are the two things that I've personally seen myself making mistakes, seen a lot of entrepreneurs making mistakes, and the consumer gets confused. What are you trying to sell to me? So that one rockstar product is what you need before you think of launching other rockstars.
Right. No, I think that's very, very important. It reminds me of an anecdote that I was told by, the ex-chief of Google India, of course, in Google and in Delhi. And he said your product should be like namak. Like it should be like as simple as namak, that everybody wants it every single time, every single day, and they will consume it no matter what. So it should be as simple as that. But doing simple is very, very tough, Aastha. We all love complicated, but that was really good. Before we start taking questions, and we are pretty much towards the end of the last 15 minutes, requesting everybody who's here to please put in all your queries. We'll be starting that. But Aastha, 2 minutes, if you could just spend on the pricing and on the negotiation, and what could some of the aspiring entrepreneurs do when they're negotiating with the retailers? How can their bottom line, because for everybody, making a sale is not important, but the unit economics has to work out. And how can they ensure that they're not getting swayed with the large numbers, but are also keeping in mind that the base of the pyramid, which is the unit economics, is actually delivering value? So what are some of those key areas where you feel the retailers have a higher margin, where you feel they can negotiate better?
You see, first of all, it's also important to understand that retailer is also not a non-profit organization, right? Everything for them also comes down to making profits. And in fact, we are venture backed. So we also have a certain high growth trajectory that we have to demonstrate, right? So one of the things that we've seen brands is that young entrepreneurs is that they always want to be treated as charity cases, right? Like they don't want to be aggressive out there and try to meet market standards and have that confidence that I can compete with these legacy brands. So when they come like as charity cases, a lot of times they are going to kind of be taken for a ride. It's like, what perception are you giving forward? So that's something that I've noticed. Although what happens when young brands come now, I'll explain the retailer mindset. Now, say for new shop, we have a very limited shelf space of 800 square feet. We only keep 1800 SKUs. For us to onboard a new brand, one existing brand has to go out, right? And it's probably the same case for every other retailer, limited shelf space. Now, that brand that has to go out is already generating a certain revenue for us, right? And there are very deep parameters and metrics that retailer success is measured. For example, sales per square foot, retail media revenue per square foot, inventory turnover ratio. So there's just so many, like the pilferage, the wastage. There's so many of these parameters. So understand that a retailer is also working on certain unit economics and metrics that they have to meet to be in business and sustain, right? There's an MRP law in India, right, which is maximum retail price. So even a retailer cannot sort of change the price or increase the price, right? And India is a very price sensitive market. So retailer को धंधा करना है, उसको भी profit कमाना है. So if they are looking at onboarding your brand, they're taking somebody else off, right? So why the fees that they're charging is kind of like their opportunity cost, which safeguards themselves, right? Like the reason why we would take a fee is that what if this brand doesn't work? I can't be on the losing end of the money. So if that other brand was say generating for me, say 10 rupees of revenue per day, then at least I should have taken this kind of money from this other brand so that I am not incurring loss on that brand.
Right.
This fear that a retailer has is stock dumping, which is something that ends up happening with almost all young brands, because they are not able to anticipate which is going to be their rockstar product, which is a product that's going to do well at the store, and what are the consumers going to like. So what they do is they'll just dump everything, and they think, अगर मैंने 12 SKU डाले, कोई एक तो बिक जाएगा. But think of it from the retailer's perspective. They block that space of 12 SKUs for you, and if none of them sells, they're sitting on excess inventory, which is not going to get liquidated, right? And that's a pure play loss. So what I would suggest in these cases is that think of it from a business perspective of a win-win for both the people, right? So when you're walking to a retailer, they've done that mathematics, right? That this is the amount of money I need to be getting from this shelf, right? So they're going to charge you that money upfront, right? Now, instead of thinking I want to put all my 12 SKUs and I want to get all my 100, 200 stores of theirs to sell, why don't you prove a case, right? That why don't you just give me like the top 4 or 5 stores of yours and you do the research and hard work, right? Like the retailer is not going to tell you that these are the 5 stores that I want to place your product. You do the research and say that, hey, these are the five stores of yours where I've seen the kind of target audience that is likely to buy my product. You give me these 5 stores. I'll give you the rental placement fee, etc. So you don't incur losses, and I'm happy to pay you a slightly higher margin. But in return, allow me to do all the promotional activities that will ensure that I keep getting direct consumer feedback and I keep getting engagement with my end consumer. So rather than getting penny wise and pound foolish, pay a pound but extract more services out of that pound. Where you can use that platform to get as much customer data, to get as much access to the consumer, to sort of prove your case to the retailer that, hey, my products are selling well, so that the retailer is then desperate to scale you to, the next set of 150 stores.
Right.
Because that the sale is coming from here and I don't want to let go of this brand. Trust me, the retailer will come to negotiate and you will have a better bargaining power.
No, I think that's a very, very important point because, being penny wise, pound foolish is, we all negotiate on price and sometimes you need to negotiate on much larger things. And I think the other point that you made in terms of doing research of your own and which is specific to the offline retailer, I think that's very, very important. Instead of blindly going and saying that, put us and showcase us, I think if we do our homework and go beforehand, then we are making a very pointed pitch. Thanks a lot for that, Aastha. I mean, even though I'm not in the offline retail space, it's super interesting. I'm quickly going to take on questions now. So just requesting, Sakshi, if you could just pop up. Sure. Yeah. Great. So should we scroll right from the top? And
we have quite a lot of questions. So
just scroll up.
Yeah, so I think we can start.
Great. So we have a question from Meena, and she says, in your experience, how can women entrepreneurs be better supported in offline retail, particularly in terms of access to capital, mentorship, and business networks? So just, Aastha, we've got a lot of questions and we don't want anybody's question to go unanswered. So just in the interest of time, if you could kind of keep all answers short, and if anybody wants anything, once this is live on our social media platform, please use the comment box to write in your questions, and I'm sure we can redirect some of those to Aastha. Aastha, over to you.
Yes. So I didn't understand if this is a brand-centric question. Like, does this?
No. So basically, as women entrepreneurs who want to succeed in offline retail, how can they get access to better capital and financing? How important is mentorship? Today they're coming and listening to you, but you're just one conversation. How much is what role can mentorship play in order for them to succeed? And what about business networks? So when you say going for retail exhibitions, but what about other business networks? Do you recommend that they should join that? And if you have any suggestions on which ones?
See, I am in fact one of the very few women founders in FMCG retail. So if you're looking for, I honestly didn't have a lot of female mentors to look up to for mentorship and guidance. And why just women, right? Like there are enough people. So one thing I noticed is that if you're persistent and if you're constantly performing and moving ahead, like even if it means baby steps, people would love to mentor you. So I've sort of been very fortunate that a lot of people have come and taught me a lot of things around, how retail is done and how it could be done better. But having said that, every entrepreneur brings a unique perspective. So while I did listen and I do listen to a lot of people and their perspectives, I have a certain way of understanding and running my business, and I like to stick to that, right? So mentorship is great. It helps you see different perspectives, but stick to your gut feeling. You have a great idea and a great business model, execute it and learn from your own mistakes. About funding, the Mudra loan opportunity is great. And there's also a scheme called Stand Up India, which is, I use both the schemes to start my business. And it wasn't easy. Given all my credentials and my work experience, etc., I would still have to go to the bank every single day with my documents, and my loan got rejected twice. Imagine opening a store in a railway station with all the perfect credentials, everything, but the loan just wasn't coming through. And that's when the bank manager told me, when I went to him for the 4th time, that I was just trying to see how persistent you are.
Oh.
Now we're like pretty good friends, post that, and the fact that he supported our company early on and grew, from a 10 lakh loan to obviously now we're earning in crores every month. The bank manager himself has gotten like multiple promotions. So I think government schemes are there, but I think just like with every other investor, they want to see how much involved a founder is and how desperate are they to like execute their idea.
Right.
It's collateral free. So do try Mudra and Stand Up India schemes. And I do hope the government and WEP launch more such schemes, because in retail particularly, the margins are very low. So capital should be actually a lot cheaper and sort of pegged to the retail needs.
So just wanted to plug in the platform of WEP here, and for all those who are inquiring for government schemes, the Women Entrepreneurship platform has actually aggregated 800 of these schemes across center and state, and they're mapped across all 6 ecosystem needs. So whether it's access to finance, access to market, whether it's marketing, compliance, or legal, all these schemes are actually mapped under it, and it's AI driven, basic AI, but still AI driven, so very easy to discover, and it runs across various languages. So whoever is keen to know what is relevant for you, for your sector, I would highly urge you to do that, and also become a part of our mentorship platform, in which we use the Geo platform, and it provides you 1:1 mentorship, and it's a fabulous way of getting that mentoring. But I think what you said, Aastha, was very important, what not to listen. And the self-belief is very, very important. We have time for limited questions. I'll try and jump into Anupama Agarwal, who has asked, how has the retail landscape in India evolved in the past few years? And what role do you see offline retail playing in the future of entrepreneurship? So we can I know you've addressed this in bits and pieces, but if you have to give us a 2047 kind of a vision, where do you see this playing out, Aastha?
India is going to be a $2 trillion plus retail economy by 2032. And just like the Western world, there are going to be multiple formats of retail that will set up in India, right? Convenience retail is one such format, which is going to be like a $50-70 billion industry. There's quick commerce, there's e-commerce, but there's so many multiple types of retail formats, specialty retail, that are all going to come up. So there's an opportunity, immense opportunity for entrepreneurs to keep building in this space. An interesting thing that I would like to mention, that a US and a China have attracted the most amount of funding in terms of online retail, right, e-commerce. Yet the contribution of online is just about a 20-25% penetration in a country like China and US. So in India right now, the unorganized retail market is about 90%. All of that is going to get organized in the coming few years, and there will be multiple organized retail formats that we brought. So I am so passionate, and I think there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurs to build businesses in retail independently, as well as through the franchising route. So not everybody may want to.
Sorry about that.
Anyway, so there's going to be an immense opportunity. In fact, this is a very hot industry right now to be building your business in. Either you start your business or you take a business of an existing retail model, like maybe New Shop or others. But retail industry is poised to grow. We're seeing so many IPOs. In fact, retail industry in India gives the best price to earnings ratio, right, in the world. You were getting a lot of new age startups in the grocery segment, in the jewelry segment, in pet care segment, in gifting segment, in convenience retail segment. So I'm very bullish about offline retail, and people should take this opportunity, an industry which has to move from 90% unorganized to 100% organized.
I think 90% to 100%, and I think what you said about the P ratio being significantly high for offline retail, I think those are very, very significant guiding facts of what could potentially happen. You did mention 3-letter word IPO. I don't know if that's in your radar in the coming few years, but we'll park it for a later conversation, Aastha. I think Megha's question is kind of linked with that, and we've kind of covered Upasana. Can we scroll down to see what else we have? We've covered this as well. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting question. I think Ananya's question was relevant, and we didn't touch about that. Any post-pandemic trends? Do you see people kind of changing the way they shop?
Yes, so post-pandemic, in fact, we started during pandemic, and this was a time when people wrote off offline retail, and we have actually grown into being so successful thanks to pandemic. So one of the things that we saw is, suddenly people realize the importance of hygienic, standardized, round-the-clock access to product and services, and it's not just restricted to home delivery, but locations where they could do community bonding. They can get like everything under one roof, stuff that is hygienic, so whether they're traveling, where they're working, where they're living, where they're studying. So suddenly that importance for standardized hygienic round the clock services is something that got highlighted during the pandemic, right? Like you would go to your traditional retail format stores, and people would say, आज नहीं है, या आज हम cricket match देख रहे हैं, आज हम दुकान नहीं खोलेंगे, and stuff like that. Suddenly people realize that important कि अरे expiry date देखना है, what is the remaining shelf life, is this people started understanding ingredients behind products. People got slightly more aware, and this happened across all stratas of society, all across all income groups, across all education groups, right? So we started seeing all of these changes. So post-pandemic, people have become more aware. They have become more aware shoppers, and they become more value conscious, I would say. And this is what led to the super success of New Shop overnight, because that behavior was reflected at a railway station, at an airport, at a gas station, at a residential area, and we saw tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities move up even more in the aspiration hierarchy, and looking for even better experiences and personalized services from the retailers that were there. And India is like a blank slate right now. So even in a city like Jaipur, we are the only modern trade store there. We have got 10 stores, and we're like the only modern trade experiential store where consumers go and like to spend a good quality time with their friends and family. These are places where they can go all night and not bother about other things, and they're hygienic. They know that we'll have at least a 75% remaining shelf life, so they're able to also look at retail as platforms for finding new products, right? Which in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities was not happening for the longest of time. So I think all these are trends that are indicating that modern trade is going to penetrate super fast. And tier 2, tier 3, 4, 5, 6, even rural areas are now becoming adopters, because thanks to social media, they know what good life is all about now.
Right. Before we close in and ask you to kind of give us your last comments, Aastha, very quickly, we have Divya asking us a question which I think is very relevant. Handmade, she's into handmade crochet business. I mean, how, realistically speaking, if you are building or making a product which is sort of, a little sort of niche, how relevant it is it for the large retailer? Is it about the right matchmaking? Does she have to go to the right retailer to sell it? Or in general, everybody is kind of, there is a perception that if something is organic and sustainable, then it's automatically more expensive, and hence it doesn't get sold and the retailer is not happy to keep it. Which one of it is true?
So, of course, retailer is benefiting cost versus analysis, replacement and onboarding brands, etc. I think not just the retailer, but also the right location plays a very important role here. So if she's doing like handmade crochet stuff, if I were her, I would start targeting tourist locations, right? Where people are slightly more price agnostic, and they're looking at getting, access to more local stuff, and take things back with them, and sort of know what India is all about. By the way, I'm a big lover of crochet, and there are a lot of e-commerce websites where I do regularly shop for crochet stuff, whether it's bags or swimwear or beachwear. You need to know where your customer is, and who's the in that customer target segment, who is the most likely buyer. So if I were her, I would maybe look at locations where a lot of tourists come, and start targeting those locations. Maybe just out of the thing, maybe just a popular nightclub in Goa. Just tell them, can I put a pop-up store here, right? Or stuff like that, where you get a lot of tourists who are price agnostic but value what she's building.
Right. No, I think that's so helpful, and I hope it answers Divya's question. Unfortunately, we wrapped up for time, 2 minutes over. So, Aastha, last words. before we sign off? Any message to anybody who's inspired and egged on after hearing you? If they were to take 3 things, if you were to tell them, what would those top 3 things be?
I mentioned my motto in life very early, like in the beginning of our conversation, that let's treat the world better than the one we were born into, and we owe it to our next generation. So that's just my motto in life, and I just keep saying that over and over again.
No, thank you very, very much, Aastha. I know I thanked you enough at the beginning.